run across some times where people, may question like how to effectively use crowdfunding campaigns, because in general it's always like a one-time deal and done situation, right? But there's a lot of different ways to go about doing it, and I think you and how you're presenting this and doing it right now for the demo campaign is a unique way of doing it. But I think you also presented it really well in terms of, because I think that's a lot of the problems people have is they're like, oh, it's like I'm trying to milk the fan base, right? Like get the most I can out of them. But from how you presented it, it's basically, no, it's not doing that. It's like, hey, look, we've had a following and everything. This is important to them. And if it's as important to them as it is to us, then we should probably do something about it now. So it seemed like it was really community driven for this decision, and a really good take and way to approach it, because sometimes I think people, they think, oh, it's me trying to get the most out of everyone else, and that couldn't be further from the case for you, and also provides a great outlook in moving forward with something that is unconventional. So I really like that you shared that. And just to back up real quick too, so why Indiegogo? Is it because you wanted to because of what we just discussed, you could probably only go on one crowdfunding platform once, and if you were to do this again down the road, then you would choose another one. Is that the reason, or is there something else?
Well, we also looked at like the history of projects like this, and we know that there's a history of successful games on Indiegogo. Of course, there's a history of successful games on Kickstarter as well. We chose Indiegogo simply because it felt like it was appropriate for what we were trying to do for a demo. We've seen a certain level of polish that I think our campaign has, but I think that the level of polish that we see from most Kickstarter campaigns are for more of a full-fledged product.
Okay.
And so we didn't want that to be kind of like the introductory one of a platform that we went to, mainly because we felt like we weren't asking for as much as a Kickstarter would require as far as promoting it, if that makes sense. So we just wanted to keep it on a platform that had a history of games of this caliber, but also allowed us to be more flexible with whatever we receive, so that we can put as much as we can towards producing this demo in the correct way. So we just really wanted to make sure the platform that we used fit the undertaking of what we were asking for, and we felt like Indiegogo was probably for the best for our demo, since that's all we're planning for right now at this time.
Right. And I want to outline too, or showcase that I think that's another great idea, and like you said, a perfect fit in that side, because for those of you who aren't familiar, Indiegogo gives you some flexibility, whereas Kickstarter is pretty much an all or nothing. If the campaign doesn't succeed, you don't get any of the funding. But with Indiegogo, they have options, and one of them is whatever you make at that point, then you would still receive funds. So I think you're right on with saying that. That's perfect. All right, so let's move on though, because I want to discuss. There's a lot I want to discuss today, because I think what you're doing now and the fact that you're in the middle of this is really exciting. So now I want to discuss like how you went ahead and planned for this, and you kind of alluded to a little bit with the planning process, but especially with, it's always recommended to have a community prior to running a crowdfunding campaign. And I'm just curious, how much effort did you put into developing your community up until this point?
Yeah, well, luckily I come from a background of drawing and illustration and comics and such. So I have a pretty long existing presence on Instagram and Facebook and some other places where a lot of my stuff has gone viral. So just kind of really made the transition to Twitter earlier this year.
Okay.
But over the years, I've been able to amass a community of my own that kind of really served as the foundation for the community we have now. They were the first to be vocal about wanting this game. And so because of that and them spreading the word of the artwork and everything, it kind of just expanded that community over time. And now we just have this large group of people that not only see the vision of this game, but want this game. Just for example, we launched the Twitter and the Instagram pages maybe about a month before the campaign started. So around like the 15th of September. And we're still seeing growth on that. We got over like 800 followers on Twitter in the past 2 days.
Oh, wow.
It's insane. And I think one of the foundations of our plans to create this game was to always try to include the community in parts of the process that we felt they could work in as much as possible. Like, for example, we're currently hosting open auditions to cast the voices for our game. And, we don't require you to be a pro at this. We just require you to have the talent to do it, and we want to give our fans and the community that supports this game the opportunity to really be a part of this game in ways that are super meaningful and in ways that will go down in the history of the game. So it's definitely a community driven game for sure. Because I think just based on the fact that this idea has been held by all of us, we've all had this idea at least once. So it's automatically connected to the hearts of a lot of people. So the community is really great.
Yeah.
Really, really great.
Yeah. And I think that's great too, because I know a lot of times indie devs will be like, oh, what are ways to like build a community and everything. And I know here on the show before in the past, we've discussed how even greater communities can be beneficial. And there's lots of different examples of doing that. And I think yours is a great one because here you are, you basically the game itself launched with a limited community, but you're very representative of the game, and your community it seemed to be very vast and everything and well developed over time because of how you represent yourself and your work and everything else, and how obviously that relates to the game that's being created. So once again, everybody, it's just another way of going about it, but still the importance of community and how that is now really helping with the campaign and stuff. But let's go on a little bit further, because one other thing I want to know about too is, after you decided to run a crowdfunding campaign, how long did you plan before you launched it?
Oh man, we've been planning since this time last year for it.
Okay, so a whole year.
Yeah, a whole year. We knew we had to make sure that, and it's funny because before all this happened, before the whole pandemic and everything happened, we had an entirely different plan for what we wanted to offer. We were going to have like physical rewards and stuff like that. But with everything that happened, we was like, we want to keep the risks as minimal as possible because the main goal of this is the game. The game is the main goal. So, but yeah, we've been planning the campaign for a year. The project has been in the pre-production stages since 2016, though. So there's legs to this. There's definitely legs to this project.
Okay, cool. And I think it's good too, because I know sometimes, I think for the most part, people know that a lot is involved with planning, these types of campaigns. But it's good to know like the breadth of the planning that you guys did, and it seemed like. With anything like when's the best time to plant the tree? It's like yesterday, right? If you want to, reap the fruit of your labor and everything, the sooner the better. So that sounds great that you did take that time and initiative to really put this together. Now, in light of that too, because you had all this time, but let's say for even people who didn't, but in your case you did, how did you go about, what was your process in determining the timing and strategies and your reward tier structure? There's a lot that goes into crowdfunding campaigns, and I know I just listed a lot of things, but for example, let's talk about reward tier structure. Maybe you can provide a few other examples with timing and strategies. I noticed on your campaign that after the $25 tier that you have, your next perk level jumps to $150. So what was kind of the reason for that? Maybe you can provide some additional context to your reward tier structure.
Yeah, so to start, we spent a lot of time considering what would not only be feasible for us to produce, but would also be, cool enough to warrant the investment on behalf of our backers. So this is one of the reasons, like I said before, that we stuck with digital rewards. We just kind of felt like in today's climate, physical deliverables were a bit risky. And though we had already, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, with the different trade deals that are happening, prices of stuff could go up.
Oh, yeah.
And we could have priced it one way and the next month it's doubled in price and completely throw off our numbers. So, we anticipated all that stuff and we're just like, look, we had everything mapped out for the physical goods, and we still plan to do that, for a full game release in the future. But as for the digital rewards, we like for the digital art book and the comic book that we're offering on the tiers, 25 and up for the comic book. I believe 75 and up for the comic book and the art book. Okay. Those will be handled personally by me. So with that being said as well, my personal pay rates for what I do for my work are not included in the pricing for this campaign. I'm doing that because I would do it anyways, because it's my project. And if I care about it, I should be doing it. So none of the money that we get from the campaign is going towards the rewards. It's all going towards the game. Nice. So we think that alone is just a magnificent, selling point, because like even for myself and my developer as well, we went into this initially, and everything we've been doing, besides me paying out of my pocket, I've been paying the UI artist and and our animator, our lead animator, and he's been doing an incredible job, Andrew. I've been paying them out of my own pocket, but for our programmer, he hasn't been receiving anything either. So he and I got to an agreement from the beginning. We saw the potential of this project, and it was like, look, any decision we make needs to be for the betterment of this game. So that's just kind of the mindset that we had going into it. As for the $150 reward and the price hike from the $25 to $150, we did have a $75 option that sold out much quicker than we were expecting.
Okay, that's probably why I missed it then.
Yeah, we played with the idea of a $50 option, but we couldn't really find, especially since we're only doing digital goods. It's one of the cons to it, I guess. We couldn't really find a good reward to offer as an in-between for the 25 and the 75 mark. And, we had to think of something that wasn't necessarily NPC related, which is the tier for the $75 option. Yep. But still had like that integrated aspect to the reward that was similar to the NPC tier. So one of the solutions we came up with was to include or have backers have the opportunity to have themselves or their own original characters included within the story mode animatics, which of course will also be illustrated and animated by myself. So there's no cost to that either. Offering, like little cameos for backers to be included within the story. So now you're solidified within the CKZ universe, and you're solidified within the lore of the CKZ universe. So we figured that was a cool option to do. The reason for the price hike is because the programming aspects of that require that to be set aside price breakdown wise. So, but yeah, we felt that was a really cool way of introducing something similar to the NPC tier, but didn't put any more weight on our pixel artists than they already have with the $75 option that's been filled up, plus the other NPCs from the higher tiers. So we thought this would be a pretty cool, in between that wouldn't put any more work on our animators.
Yeah, and I would like to call out too that the decisions of this, weren't just to a level of strategy. I mean, to a degree, yes, of course they were. But if you really look at the core out of it, like you said in the beginning earlier, was it's really community driven, right? Mm-hmm. To make them be a part of this. And you provided some great examples of this. And in itself, and I think this is important for other people who are listening too, is to identify that even though there might be some big price hikes in between, and like you said, it's like I'm not just going to create something just for the heck of creating it. There's still a large amount of value that's associated with them, with these price points. So I think in terms of how it's structured and everything else, that makes a lot of sense, and I think it's great that you said that, because I know in some cases it's like, how do people really want to fit into this too? But the other side I want to call out too is obviously your audience, and I think because your audience so well, because of this community you have developed over time, it probably makes it easier to justify these types of moves, because in some cases, I mean, a 25 to 75 or 150 isn't for everyone, right? Mm-hmm. So, but I think that it's to say too that you really knew your audience and be like, hey, look, I know there's going to be people out there that are going to be willing to commit to this. So
definitely, I mean, even at the $25 option, we made it a point to make sure that, because we're asking for a demo campaign, and
yes, exactly.
like we said earlier, it's unconventional. but we made sure to offer at even starting from the $25 mark, you reserved your